Good morning, everyone. Welcome to July 1st, and welcome to the City Planning Commission's public hearing. And Madam Secretary, please begin.
Good morning. This is the City Planning Commission public meeting held in Spector Hall, 22 Reade Street. Today is Wednesday, July 1st, 2015. As a courtesy during the proceedings, we ask that you please turn off all cell phones and beepers. All speakers should fill out a speaker's card at the desk outside of Spector Hall. In addition, we ask that those providing testimony please identify yourself, limit your remarks to 3 minutes, and speak clearly into the microphone. I will now call the roll. Chairman Weisbrod.
Here.
Vice Chairman Knuckles.
Here.
Commissioner Besser.
Here.
Commissioner Cantor. Commissioner Cerullo.
Here.
Commissioner Delos. Commissioner Dweck.
Here.
Commissioner Edie.
Here.
Commissioner Efron.
Here.
Commissioner Jung. Commissioner Levin.
Here.
Commissioner Marin.
Here.
Commissioner Ortiz. A
Here.
quorum is present. The first item is the approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of Wednesday, June 17, 2015.
On the minutes, may I have a motion to approve? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The minutes are approved, Madam Secretary.
Scheduling on calendar numbers 1, 2, and 3, we have resolutions for adoption scheduling Wednesday, July 15, 2015 for a public hearing to be held in Spector Hall, 22 Reade Street.
On the resolutions, may I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The resolutions are approved.
The next part of the calendar is the report section on page 3. Borough of the Bronx, calendar numbers 4 and 5. Calendar number 4, CD3, C150303ZSX. Calendar number 5, C150306HAX. In the matter of application for the grant of a special permit, UDAP designation, project approval, and disposition of city-owned property concerning Melrose Commons North Site B. For favorable reports on calendar numbers 4 and 5, Chairman Weisbrod.
Aye.
Vice Chairman Knuckles.
I just want to say, I think Melrose Commons has been one of the great reclamation projects in the city with regard to turning around a neighborhood. I'd gladly vote yes.
Commissioner Besser.
Yes.
Commissioner Cantor.
Yes.
Commissioner Cerullo.
Yes.
Commissioner Dweck.
Yes.
Commissioner Edie.
Yes.
Commissioner Efron.
Yes.
Commissioner Levin. Commissioner Marin.
Yes.
Commissioner Ortiz.
Yes.
Favorable reports have been adopted on calendar numbers 4 and 5. Borough of the Bronx, calendar numbers 6 through 10. Calendar number 6, CD1, N150287, ZRX. Calendar number 7, C150288, ZMX. Calendar number 8, N150289, ZSX. Calendar number 9, N150290, ZAX. Calendar number 10, C150344ZSX. In the matter of applications for amendments of the zoning resolution and the zoning map, and for the grant of special permits concerning Tres Puentes, 285 East 138th Street. For favorable reports on calendar numbers 6 through 10, Chairman Weisbrod.
Yes.
Vice Chairman Knuckles.
Yes.
Commissioner Besser.
Yes.
Commissioner Cantor.
Yes.
Commissioner Cerullo.
Yes.
Commissioner Dweck.
Yes.
Commissioner Edie.
Yes.
Commissioner Efron.
Yes.
Commissioner Jung.
Yes.
Commissioner Levin. Commissioner Marin.
Yes.
Commissioner Ortiz.
Yes.
Favorable reports have been adopted on calendar numbers 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Borough of Manhattan, calendar number 11, CD4, C150147, ZSM. In the matter of an application for the grant of a special permit concerning 510 West 28th Street parking garage. For a favorable report on calendar number 11, Chairman Weisbrod.
Yes.
Vice Chairman Knuckles.
Yes.
Commissioner Besser.
Yes.
Commissioner Cantor.
Yes.
Commissioner Cerullo.
Yes.
Commissioner Dweck.
Yes.
Commissioner Edie.
Yes.
Commissioner Efron.
Yes.
Commissioner Jung.
Yes.
Commissioner Levin.
Yes.
Commissioner Marin.
Yes.
Commissioner Ortiz.
Yes.
A favorable report has been adopted on calendar number 11. Borough of Manhattan, calendar numbers 12 and 13. Calendar number 12, CD2, C150203MM. Calendar number 13, N150267, ZRM. In the matter of applications for an amendment of the city map and for an amendment of the zoning resolution concerning 76 Greenwich Street Greenwich Avenue, St. Vincent's Park, for a favorable report on calendar number 12, and for a favorable report as modified on calendar number 13. Chairman Weisbrod,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Knuckles,
Yes.
Commissioner Besser,
Yes.
Commissioner Cantor,
Yes.
Commissioner Cerullo,
Recused.
Commissioner Dweck,
Yes.
Commissioner Edie,
Yes.
Commissioner Efron,
Yes.
Commissioner Jung,
Yes.
Commissioner,
Could the record reflect a yes vote from me on calendar numbers 4 and 5?
will do. Commissioner Levin,
Yes.
Commissioner Marin,
Yes.
Commissioner Ortiz.
Yes.
A favorable report has been adopted on calendar number 12, and a favorable report as modified has been adopted on calendar number 13. Borough of Manhattan, calendar numbers 14 and 15. Calendar number 14, CD 11, C150211ZMM. Calendar number 15, C150212 HAM. In the matter of applications for an amendment of the zoning map for a UDAP designation, project approval, and for the disposition of city-owned property concerning PROMISA. For favorable reports on calendar numbers 14 and 15. Chairman Weisbrod,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Knuckles,
Yes.
Commissioner Besser,
Yes.
Commissioner Cantor,
Yes.
Commissioner Cerullo,
Yes.
Commissioner Dweck,
Yes.
Commissioner Edie,
Yes.
Commissioner Efron,
Yes.
Commissioner Jung,
Yes.
Commissioner Levin, Commissioner Marin,
Yes.
Commissioner Ortiz.
Yes.
Favorable reports have been adopted on calendar numbers 14 and 15. Borough of Queens, calendar number 16, CD 1, N150387 HKQ. In the matter of a communication regarding the landmark designation of the Bank of Manhattan. On the adoption of calendar number 16 for referral to the City Council. Chairman Weisbrod,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Knuckles.
Yes.
Commissioner Besser,
Yes.
Commissioner Cantor,
Yes.
Commissioner Cerullo,
Yes.
Commissioner Dweck,
Yes.
Commissioner Edie,
Yes.
Commissioner Efron,
Yes.
Commissioner Jung,
Yes.
Commissioner Levin, Commissioner Marin,
Yes.
Commissioner Ortiz.
Yes.
Calendar number 16 has been adopted. Borough of Staten Island, calendar numbers 17 and 18. Calendar number 17, CD3, N150182 RAR. Calendar number 18, N150183 RCR. In the matter of application for the grant of an authorization and for the grant of a certification concerning NYC DEP Blue Belt Sheldon Avenue for adoption on calendar numbers 17 and 18. Vice Chairman, I'm sorry, Chairman Weisbrod,
I'll gladly defer to, yes.
Vice Chairman
You
Knuckles,
trying to get me in trouble, Madam Secretary? Yes.
Commissioner Besser,
Yes.
Commissioner Cantor,
Yes.
Commissioner Cerullo,
Yes.
Commissioner Dweck,
Yes.
Commissioner Edie,
Yes.
Commissioner Efron,
Yes.
Commissioner Jung,
Yes.
Commissioner Levin, Commissioner Marin,
Yes.
Commissioner Ortiz.
Yes.
Calendar numbers 17 and 18 have been adopted. Borough of Staten Island, calendar number 19, CD3, N150335 RCR, in the matter of an application for the grant of a certification concerning 3886 Highland Boulevard for adoption on calendar number 19. Chairman Weisbrod,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Knuckles.
Yes.
Commissioner Besser.
Yes.
Commissioner Cantor.
Yes.
Commissioner Cerullo.
Yes.
Commissioner Dweck.
Yes.
Commissioner Edie.
Yes.
Commissioner Efron.
Yes.
Commissioner Jung.
Yes.
Commissioner Levin.
Yes.
Commissioner Marin.
Yes.
Commissioner Ortiz.
Yes.
Calendar number 19 has been adopted. Borough of Staten Island, calendar numbers 20, 21, and 22. Calendar number 20, CD2, N150271 ZAR. Calendar number 21, N150272 ZAR. Calendar number 22, N150273 RAR. In the matter of applications for the grant of certifications concerning the Staten Island Mall enlargement for adoption on calendar numbers 20, 21, and 22. Chairman Weisbrod,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Knuckles.
Yes.
Commissioner Besser,
Yes.
Commissioner Cantor,
Yes.
Commissioner Cerullo,
Yes.
Commissioner Dweck.
Yes.
Commissioner Edie.
Yes.
Commissioner Fron.
Yes.
Commissioner Jung.
Yes.
Commissioner Levin.
Yes.
Commissioner Marin.
Yes.
Commissioner Ortiz.
Yes.
Calendar numbers 20, 21, and 22 have been adopted. Borough of Staten Island, calendar number 23, CD1, N150269 ZCR, in the matter of an application for the grant of a certification concerning Stanley Avenue and Glen Avenue for adoption on calendar number 23. Chairman Weisbrod,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Knuckles?
Yes.
Commissioner Bessa?
Yes.
Commissioner Cantor?
Yes.
Commissioner Cerullo?
Yes.
Commissioner Dweck?
Yes.
Commissioner Edie?
Yes.
Commissioner Efron?
Yes.
Commissioner Jung?
Yes.
Commissioner Levin?
Yes.
Commissioner Marin?
Yes.
Commissioner Ortiz?
Yes.
Calendar number 23 has been adopted. The next part of the calendar is the public hearing section on page 17. Borough of the Bronx, calendar number 24, CD 10, C150205, PQX. A public hearing in the matter of an application for the acquisition of easements concerning the City Island water supply and drainage easement.
First speaker is Robert White, is that correct? From the Department of Design and Construction.
Good morning. If we could have just a few moments to put some boards up for the presentation.
Okay.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Robert White. I'm a consultant with AKRF, representing the Department of Design and Construction on this project. It's, as stated, it's a ULURP application for the acquisition of 2 easements that would facilitate 2 separate capital projects. The applicants on the ULURP application are the Department of Environmental Protection and the Department of Citywide Administrative Services, who are in the room, as well as representatives of DDC, and they've signed up to answer questions after my presentation. The project purpose and need is really twofold. The first part is a water supply project and new connections to City Island. The second is drainage improvements with the 2 projects, and it would also, in conjunction with the stormwater improvements, drainage improvements, would upgrade sanitary sewers and water lines. The first of the capital projects is called or referred to as Kilrow Street. HED 564 is the capital project number. That project, and I'll put the board up.
There.
Would extend a new, two new water lines from the mainland of the Bronx to City Island. Just to give you a little orientation, this is the north end of City Island, this is the City Island Bridge, and this is Pelham Bay Park. Currently, there are some older lines that go under East Chester Bay, and on the bridge, this new line would bypass that and would connect with the new safe and secure water supply system or supply lines to City Island. It would all be subaqueous. In other words, it would be below the water, and you wouldn't see anything. It would be connect here at City Island Road and connect the existing water lines on City Island. Oh, thank you. Okay, yes. The acquisitions are 2 properties, or portions of 2 properties. This is a triangular part here, in mostly, almost, if not entirely, water. It's about 300 feet long and 300 feet wide. And what that would allow the city to do is install that subaqueous line and then have a maintenance easement underneath the property. And also there would be a storm outfall here that the city could install. And there'd be a protected drainage way out to East Chester Bay so that as the stormwater outfall functions, it would allow free flow out to the bay. On the north end of City Island, this is just a stormwater improvement project in addition to sanitary and water line replacement. This is about a 35-foot by 300-foot long easement that would be acquired and would allow storm drainage from this area to collect and go to the outfall, and then again would go out to East Chester Bay. There'd be a reconstruction of a bulkhead, and it's about 35 feet wide and 300 feet long, if I didn't say that already. This is the existing property on the north end. It's a parking lot for an existing restaurant. The work would be entirely within the parking lot. The parking surface would be replaced as part of the project. Once it's done, the bulkhead would also be replaced. So essentially, other than the new outfall at the bulkhead, you wouldn't know that the water line was there or the sewer line was there. The owner would be precluded from any future construction on that easement because the line needs to be accessed for maintenance, et cetera. And
Thank you, Mr. White.
and this property, as you can see, is entirely water area.
Thank you.
You're
Questions for Mr. White? Mr. Knuckles?
You mentioned that there was a parking lot that would be dislocated, did you not?
It's existing accessory parking.
Right.
It wouldn't be dislocated or removed. There would be a period of about 6 months of construction for the outfall. And at the conclusion of as the final stage of that construction, the surface parking would be replaced. There are no structures there currently. It's just parking.
Are there any other traffic impacts that you can think of as a result of?
Well, there is a driveway here, and there would be circulation internally that would need to be discussed with the property owner. The property owner has been reached out to,
Right.
and there's been correspondence between DTC and the property owner about how this project gets implemented. They had a few questions about that, as you can imagine, but the parking lot would be entirely resurfaced and replaced and available in its current use.
All right. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Marin?
Robert, good morning.
Good morning.
Can you talk to us, or maybe it's someone else in the audience, in reference to how the water gets treated before it reaches out to the bay?
The current system, and perhaps someone from DEP can add to this if necessary, is there's catch basins that would be installed as part of the project that collect solids and floatables, which would be removed at every rainstorm event. Those are the basic treatment parameters of the system, yes.
Mr. Cantor and then Ms. Zhang.
Thank you.
Sure.
With reference to the first easement, I understood you to say that it was a below-grade easement, and I assume at grade, does it go up forever?
This one or
The first one? No, not that one.
This one
The
here?
other one.
Okay. I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
Is the easement only for below grade and access at grade?
The
Can this
easement
guy- can
is
this
for
guy
the-
build over you?
Yes, the easement would allow the installation and construction of the outfall, which will be below grade. There will be a bulkhead replacement approximately here. There's an existing bulkhead. This area here would need to remain free. You can see there's actually some derelict barge structures here. In order for the storm sewer to function properly, this area would have to remain free and clear of any future obstructions, so there couldn't be any marinas or other piers or things that would impede outflow. And then in perpetuity, it would have to remain free and clear of structures. So they couldn't put an additional building on top of the
They cannot
easement
put
area.
anything
You
on
cannot,
top.
no,
Okay.
because the sewer line needs maintenance and access for
Well, we
DEP.
built over sewers before.
I'm sorry?
I say there are situations where they build over sewers with access to the sewer.
Yeah, I think DEP could speak more to that, but that's not the
Okay.
preferred for the future system.
This way's cleaner.
Yes.
Ms. Zhang? Any other questions to Mr. White? Thank you.
You're welcome.
The next speaker is Mitchell Wimbish from Department of Environmental Protection.
Hi, good morning. I'm the project manager for the environmental review of this project, and I'm just here to answer any questions you might have about the environmental review.
Questions to Mr. Wimbish? Thank you, Mr. Wimbish.
Thanks.
Next speaker is Emil Francesca, is that correct?
Apparently.
Also from Department of Environmental Protection.
Good morning. My name is Emil Fanous. I work with
Benusa.
Capital Project Development, and we are responsible for initiation capital projects, sewer and water main.
Questions? Ms. Efron.
Is it the view of the department that this will be adequate for the long-term future of City Island, or is there a time limitation on what you expect from this water project?
You talking about water project or sewer project?
The sewer project.
The water project, we installed the water project because the DOT will replace the bridge of City Island, so we have to build the new 20-inch water main. This can be increase the surface quality and feed the City Island with proper equity from the water main.
Forever?
That's what we mean forever. Yes, because we are increased. The existing one was 24 and 12. Now we built two 20-inch.
Thank you. I figured you would know since you're in charge of the capital project, so thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Anthony Nieves from Department of Design and Construction.
Good morning. I'm Anthony Nieves, representing the New York City Department of Design and Construction. I'm here to answer any questions you may have related to the project. No question?
Hearing none.
Okay, that's good.
Thank you, Mr. Nieves.
You did a good job.
And we also have Robert Castilli from Design and Construction. It'd be helpful if you said what your role is at Design and Construction, since
Robert Castelli of New York City Design and Construction, and I'm here to answer any questions about the design of the project.
hearing none. Thank you, Mr. Castelli. And also here from DCAS is Deborah McAllister and Shafali Patel from DDC, also here to answer questions if there are any questions.
Good morning. My name is Deborah McAllister from DCAS Acquisitions. If you have any questions.
I hear no questions, or see no questions. So thank you very much. And is there anyone else who wishes to be heard on this matter or to answer questions? Hearing none, the hearing is closed. Thank you very much.
Borough of Brooklyn, calendar number 25, CD7, C150188, PCK. A public hearing in the matter of an application for the site selection and acquisition of property concerning the NYPD evidence storage and central records facility.
First speaker is Dale Lazarson from DCAS.
Good morning. I am here to present, as mentioned, thank you, Chairman. I'm Dale Lazarson from DCAS Asset Management in the Leasing Group, and I am here to present two ULURP applications for the city, for city use in the same building. So it's two applications for city use in the same building, however, with two different agencies. One is for the NYPD, and one is for the Manhattan DA's office. The subject building is located at 4312 2nd Avenue in the Southwest Sunset Park area of Brooklyn, which is characterized by light industrial, smaller residential, warehouse, storage, some open park and recreation areas along the waterfront, and of course, the much touted marine terminal activities. Sunset Park itself is a market of approximately 11 million square feet of it contains about 11 million square feet of industrial loft-style buildings. There are three major properties making up that, one of which is very well-known, Industry City, of about 6 million square feet. There is Liberty View Plaza of about 1.2 million square feet. And there is the Brooklyn Army Terminal of about 3 million square feet. Overall, in the area, like much of Brooklyn, Sunset Park is a hot market. Vacancy is relatively low for the overall market. However, for specific projects, including Industry City, vacancy is quite high, but that's because of the size. As I mentioned, Industry City is about 6 million square feet, and their vacancy is somewhere around 10%, give or take, based on industry reports. So the subject building that we have our ULURP applications against, as I mentioned, is 4312 2nd Avenue. The building is located within an industrial business zone, under which the condition exists of no negative impact or elimination of existing manufacturing or industrial uses. The building is privately owned, and the owner is here today to answer any questions if needed. He is a longtime resident of Long Island, and he operates his business from the subject building. Building is 6 stories. It's approximately 600,000 square feet. And of note, in the building currently today, the city, the Board of Election occupies approximately 160,000 square feet of space. So the proposed projects, as I mentioned, are for the NYPD and the DA. And I'll start with the DA. The Manhattan DA is intending to use the specific site for record storage and case files, and this will offer the DA increased capacity to its 2 core locations, both located on Center Street, 80 and 100 Center Street. Currently, I should mention that the DA is located under a license agreement on the 5th floor with approximately 76,000 square feet. So this particular request is to convert that license into a long-term lease of 15 years, but also with an expansion opportunity of just under 20,000 square feet for a portion of the 2nd floor to also help accommodate increased capacity. Members of the DA's office are here to speak and answer any questions as well about their operations.
Please continue.
Thank you. With respect to the NYPD, this particular site is to be used for evidence storage and central records. Currently, the NYPD has operations of this nature at 540 Kingsland in Greenpoint and 700 Columbia Street in Red Hook. However, both of those facilities suffered some damage as a result of Hurricane Sandy. And as a result, new evidence and new files coming in are under an emergency order after Hurricane Sandy. We searched for a new space, and so we located this property, and they're being placed there. After being in the facility for a little bit of time on the 5th floor, on the 6th floor, the facility works very well for the NYPD. It's very well located to the 72nd and 68th precinct, and physically, the building is structured to accommodate for ease of file movement, including about 4 feet elevated off ground with loading docks, et cetera. And so the NYPD is looking to convert its existing license for the 6th floor to the long-term lease of 15 years and also add to it a portion of the ground floor to expand its presence as well. Members of the NYPD are here also to talk about their operations.
Thank you, Ms. Lasserson, and you'll be back on the next item, which is the DA's
Yes, and because
lease.
Yes, because both are at the same building.
No, that's fine. That's fine.
Yes.
Questions for Ms. Lasserson? Mr. Cirillo, then Mr. Dweck.
How are you? Just a question. Given the sensitivity of what's being stored here, and obviously these applications and evidence and records, but also with the Board of Elections and voting booths, what is the security requirements for this? Are the agencies responsible for their own security for each space, or is that part of the agreement with the owner to provide the security for now that most of this building will be taken up by these services or functions?
So that's a great question. I'll start with respect to the landlord providing security services, we are still negotiating with him,
Okay.
So jury's out. But with respect to each agency, both the DA and NYPD, they have installed, for their existing operations, DA on 5 and the NYPD on 6, they have actually installed their proprietary security systems. Absolutely.
Okay.
And that's in concert with the owner's understanding.
Okay, and I guess depending on how the negotiations turn out, there may be additional security mechanisms put in place for...
There may be for the base building,
The base.
Again, it is a multi-tenant building.
Sure.
But of most importance would be the security systems for each of the agencies.
Yes.
For all ingress, egress, and within their own spaces, yeah.
Okay.
And each agency representative can speak a little further if needed.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you.
Mr. Dweck.
A couple of questions. Going back to the borough president's comments, he noted his desire that you retain minority and women-owned businesses for the move. And I noted that DCAS said they'd get back to him. Any update on that?
No, I don't have an update on that. However, with the improvement, the existing presence of both agencies on the floors now under the license agreement, those improvements are completed. With respect to the ground floor for the NYPD, the landlord will be performing all of that construction as a turnkey. And the opportunity to use minority businesses and special category contractors exists, and we certainly will encourage that.
Thank you. And the next question, you mentioned that currently they operate under a license agreement. Can you delineate the differences, the legal differences between the license and the lease agreement? And is it that the license agreement didn't have to come in front of the commission for an application because of the emergency order or because of the very legal nature of the license agreement?
I will answer that as best as I can, and full disclosure, I am not an attorney. So this said, a license agreement for all practical purposes is simply a use agreement. License a parking space, license a piece of storage space. It's a license, that's all it is, it's a use agreement. The city's license agreement is for an unlimited period of time. However, either party, by mandate, may terminate for within 25 days. So it can be used for emergency situations because it's relatively quick to get into, per se, quick within the city's timelines. And one of the reasons that you don't see license agreements coming before the Planning Commission is because they are used for, theoretically, short-term opportunities. Again, because either party can terminate after 25-day notices. And the intention is to be able to get into a property with a forward plan. Otherwise, many times you will hear a license with a lease option, and that's where we might get into a property quickly and then start the process, the ULURP process, and then we will come before you before we exercise that lease option.
So has it been determined by council that license agreements don't need to come in front of the commission for ULURP, or don't need to be part of a ULURP application?
I don't know which governing body may have determined that. I have just understood that because of the short duration, it may not be in the commission's best interest to see every license agreement.
Given the temporary nature of the license agreements, and Ms. Lazarson says they're used sparingly, they really are not in and of themselves, and usually as a predicate to what will be a longer agreement that would come before the commission. They're not viewed by staff here as land use actions per se that would be subject to commission review. And I would say that, as Ms. Lazarson says, they are used rather sparingly for situations where time is of the essence and occupancy is important, but it's on the road to a long-term lease or a lease.
Thank you, yes.
That was good clarification. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Mr. Cantor, then Ms.
Thank you.
Efron.
With regard to the two existing properties that the police department have, which were affected by Sandy, is it the intent to give those properties up?
Not necessarily, and I would like to qualify. Both properties, just by the nature of where they're situated, were affected by Sandy. Not necessarily detrimentally. 540 Kingsland, it is the intent of the police department to give that particular location up. However, as a result of Sandy, much of the evidence stored there, in fact, I would venture to say almost all of it, has been significantly contaminated. So there's a little bit of a conundrum because it will be a long dialogue as to the, what do you call it, the chain of touching, and moving, the ability to actually move that evidence now that it has been contaminated. So the NYPD would ultimately like to relinquish that property, but at this point in time, it looks like they're holding it with the evidence existing. With respect to the Red Hook location on Columbia Street, this is interesting. As a result of capacity issues, the building is fine after Sandy now, but as a result of capacity issues, for lack of a better way to say this, the NYPD is actually squatting its storage there. It really is used for more vehicle pounding purposes, but it needed space to put stuff in, so that's where it is. So hopefully, this particular project will accommodate some of these capacity issues.
But this plan is structured so that the police department believes its needs will be served well into the future?
Yes. Yes,
Thank
in
you.
fact, that's why, in addition to the current occupancy, this particular project application requests the expansion to include the ground floor presence. Yes.
Thank you.
Ms. Efron.
Hi, thank you for all the clarifications. I have no doubt that the need is great, and these two agencies, one that you're speaking of and one that you soon will speak of, are clearly important to the high functioning of this city, and we all commend everyone involved for their hard work with it. I guess I'm surprised by the length of lease term of 15 years, and since you are involved in other projects as well, I'm just wondering if you could clarify the commission how decisions are made with regard to other agencies such as EDC about where to situate large warehouses for city agencies when there is economic development activity in the adjacent neighborhoods.
So with respect to lease terms, unlike offices, although in today's climate we're seeing very long-term office leases, the cost to get into industrial properties and the industrial property presence itself with so much redevelopment across the country it can be lengthy, the cost as well as just the duration to get in. So securing longer term leases is pretty typical for industrial. With respect to looking for sites, obviously zoning is key, and then impact on the immediate area is key as well, not only for the operation, what its impact will be for the community, but also if the community would have any impact on the operation. An example of that is that this particular building, where it's situated, and based on the physical structure of this building, having loading docks, low street traffic, low pedestrian traffic, not only will the operation not necessarily have any adverse impact on the immediate community, there wouldn't be pedestrian traffic or a lot of vehicle traffic that would be an impediment to the operations for the daily pickup and delivery of files. So with respect to EDC, and again, site searching, it comes down to where is supply, what is the zoning, what is the impact for both the occupant on the community and the community on the occupant. If there is anything potentially adverse, can it be addressed in a satisfactory manner? I think that there is some dialogue, with respect to that. The degree with the EDC, beyond that, I can't speak toward. I can certainly find out. Is
Can I
that
ask one follow-up
answering
question?
your question?
Did you or anyone else speak to EDC about this property?
I did not. This search happened a little while ago. I can certainly get back to you and find out if they did. I know that in the ULIP application, we did a fair share analysis, the Fair Share Act analysis to identify other municipal agencies in the area, all of which happen to be currently located on 2nd Avenue. We are aware of the 197A plan for this area, of the requirements under the IBZ, and all of which this operation, both operations don't seem to have an adverse impact. So, but I will certainly get back to you.
Thanks.
Ms. John.
Ms. Lazarson.
Hello.
Nice to see you. I have several questions. I think the borough president had a few things to say that I wanted to ask you about. One is, there's a request here that there be a public amenity plan negotiated as part of this, and I'm wondering, is that something that is commonly done, or are there precedents for this sort of thing as a condition of leasing? And if there are any other examples like this that you know of? And then secondly, sort of along the lines of what Commissioner Efron was saying, are there any conditions around these two particular facilities and these two uses that make it imperative that that it be in this location? In other words, is it that the materials that are being stored here are being accessed by precincts that are in nearby areas and they need to have some sort of relatively easy daily access? Is it that, because I think the question is, it's not that that this wouldn't be an appropriate use for an industrial area, or that there would be necessarily adverse impacts. I think that what the borough president is saying, and sort of what we're asking about, is that there is an intent in this neighborhood to move this this area in a particular direction in terms of economic development, and the sense seems to be that this is a use that might sort of pin down something that would sort of be a little bit of a deviation from where the the community would like to see that development go. And so I guess, are there any conditions about the use that make it so that this is really the right place for this to go, as opposed to some other industrial area in some nearby place?
I see, yes, thank you for clarifying, and now I understand that. So I'll answer the second question first. Each agency representative can also speak toward their operations. This particular building, it's one building, two applications. This particular building is well situated for both due to the proximity of the core operations. So for the NYPD, for example, the 72nd precinct and the 68th precinct are being serviced by the records and property clerk items here. So the proximity to the public transportation and to these precincts is key. And again, then in just the immediate area with the low traffic right now, and the existing building itself being available when it was available was key. With respect to the DA, the proximity to the court system is key. And I should mention that for the NYPD, we did do a site search in other areas, including the Bronx. But again, based on the emergency need at the time, the particular facility worked well. The owner came to the table and we came to the table to get ourselves in that building as needed. And over the duration of the last year and a half, I think it's proven to be a very valuable location for the NYPD. It's also offered the owner who had some vacancy, and as I mentioned in the vacancy statements about the area, there is some vacancy in the area. It's actually offered the owner rental revenue. So rather than have a building be vacant for a long period of time and potentially fall into distress, it solved for two needs. It not only solved for the NYPD's need at the time, it also solves for the owner's need, who will, in turn, with the rental revenue, be able to make sure that this building doesn't fall in disrepair, which if it does in industrial zones, as we often see, that just simply compounds the concern of the industrial area's presence. So for the DA, their specific requirement was in Brooklyn, proximity to public transportation and to the court system. Back to the first question, is it common practice to offer through lease negotiation dialogue, if you will, immediate area improvements? That correlation? I'm not going to say that it's not common practice. It's a case-by-case basis. My observations over many years. If in leasing you can drive traction for more leasing and for betterments, or if the only way to lease is to cause that, then it's not uncommon that that dialogue take place. However, typically those are very large projects, where the financial investment is economically feasible for all of the parties. In this situation, while this area is key for redevelopment and some revitalization, I think the start of that is probably focused along the waterfront and then moving a little further. This existing property, these two projects will not have any impact on the exterior footprint of the building. It's really just interior space. And I think at this point in time, the economic feasibility of committing to area improvements may be challenged, not only for the owner, but also for the city. That said, over the course of time, if more leasing comes into the area, we'll see if restrictions and conditions can be accommodated. But it is still at this juncture in dialogue. I just don't know if the economic feasibility presents itself. Thank you. Short story long? I'm going to answer your question.
Any other questions, Ms. Lazarson? Let me, I have a question. The city obviously has leased and at least licensed and leased, I think, space in this building prior to now, and occupies space in this building. Have there been issues with respect to those leases, the operation of the building, or from your perspective as the lessee of this space on behalf of various city agencies, are you satisfied with the operation of the building?
The operation that exists today is the Board of Elections for the voting machines you mentioned. It's about 160,000 square feet. I believe it's 2 floors, the 3rd and the 4th floor. They've been there for just about 5 years. To my knowledge, there haven't been any operational challenges that have not been resolved. Maybe some tenant issues every now and then may have come up. I really don't know that history. With respect to the owner, as a landlord to the city, as the owner is present, if there's anything adverse to say, I'll reserve my comments, but I don't believe that there is. Yeah, I think that if we had adversity with a building owner, and we were proposing to lease more space, as part of our real estate due diligence, we are certainly scrubbing the owner, not only the proposed building that we would enter into, but we also take a look at them and say, what else do they own? And do we have any concerns with them? And in fact, the owner who is here today, as I mentioned, he does have other buildings in this area. So to my knowledge, the Board of Elections has not had any material concerns. Haven't heard of anything.
And have you, the city, leased space in any of the owner's other buildings, to your knowledge?
Not to my knowledge, no.
Thank you. Any other questions for Ms. Lazarson? Thank you. Next speaker is it Deputy Commissioner Robert Martinez from the Police Department.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So Superstorm Sandy hit the city pretty hard, and I'm the Deputy Commissioner of Support Services, so that covers his fleet services, central records, property clerk, and printing. So I got hit 3 ways. I got hit with the fleet. We lost 280 vehicles due to flooding. The property clerk, 2 locations, Kingsland Avenue and the Red Hook location on Columbia Street. And also within the same building in Kingsland, which is in Greenpoint, we also had our central records cold storage, long-term storage facility there too. So the vehicles, we bought new ones and replaced them, but and the records, we sent them up and we're having them cleaned, remediated, and digitalized, but they're going to come back repacked. And then we have the property clerk. So the property clerk had biological evidence barrels. These are barrels, they're cardboard barrels, they're 55-gallon drums that we put biological evidence in. And we also had bicycles, and as well as the auto pound. So at the auto pound, we had 1,000 cars that went underwater, 700 motorcycles, a total of 6,000 biological evidence barrels underwater, and the whole entire record storage facility was under 5 foot of water. So with that said, biological in itself is a hazmat. So the barrels are made of the cardboard and they're in paper bags because biological evidence has to breathe. So just with the water going into these barrels, we had cross-contamination and all kinds of problems with biological evidence. And then in addition to that, in Kingsland was right next to a DEP facility. So we had E. coli and other contaminants come in from it's right on the Newtown Creek. So we had some other environmental conditions entered into it. So currently we're having an analysis done of the biological evidence to see the validity of it. This was the largest contamination of police evidence probably in the history of the world, and I'm kind of left with dealing with it and trying to figure out what to do with it. We have monthly meetings once a month with all the DA's office, U.S. Attorney's office, discussing the progress, and we're 2.5 plus years since it happened, and we're still trying to figure out exactly how to deal with it and what to do with it, because once we destroy this evidence and get rid of it, we no longer have it. This evidence sometimes can keep an innocent person out of jail and put a guilty person in jail, so we have to be very careful on how we handle this. So it was kind of very lucky that we found this location. We did the emergency order to get this location because we had to cease operations at all those locations immediately. So we've been using the location since early 2013. It's been serving very well, but we've only been putting new stuff there because obviously we can't take anything out until we make a decision on what to do with it. We've had 1,000 requests for evidence that got affected in the courts. We've testified over 200 times in the courts in relationship to the evidence affected, and there hasn't been one negative effect with any of the cases, luckily, so we'll knock on wood on that, and hopefully we'll keep that. So since then, all the evidence coming in from the OCME's office and the precincts have been delivered in the biological evidence barrels, and the only thing being stored there are biological evidence barrels and bicycles. We currently have probably about 800 bicycles there. One thing that came up with city bikes is somehow city bikes end up in the property clerk, so we always have about 80 city bikes on hand. I don't know if they figured it out in their business plan. So, any questions?
Thank you, Commissioner Martinez. Questions, Commissioner? Ms. Zhang?
That sounds terribly challenging, and, thank you for taking that, doing the job. Are there any hazards that you've looked at around the location of this particular building? It's not that far from the water, and I'm wondering not so much about the building itself, but any access issues that may happen if there is another flood.
Well, that's why we're on the 6th floor, so if we...
Right, but you still have to get to the building, and I'm just wondering, was there any?
Yeah, everything's contained, so it's in a paper bag first, and then in a barrel, and then it gets transported by elevator upstairs, and it's, a couple barrels a day. It's not like a whole truckload of barrels. Stuff comes in small quantities. So there's no real hazardous concern with it. It's all contained, as it's being transported. We don't see a concern with that.
But you're not anticipating that if there is another flood, that there'll be any trouble getting to and from the building in terms of through the roads were fine,
Right.
and high and dry and.
Right, so
Okay.
from what I understand, the new flood zone the maps all been redrawn. This is just outside it. I think they changed it to ABC instead of 1, 2, 3 or something. So we're just inside that new flood zone. But if there was a storm or something, we just would stop operation until the water, succeeded, dissipated. And like I say, we're on the 6th floor.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Any other questions for Commissioner Martinez? Thank you.
Oh, great, thank you.
The next speaker is Gary Damest, who is the building's owner.
Morning, Gary
Morning.
Damast. I'm the owner-
Damast?
Damast, yes. I'm the owner of 4312 Second Avenue, and I'm here to answer any questions that the panel may have.
Yeah, I have a few questions, Mr. Damast. First, this is a building of roughly 600,000 square feet?
Correct.
And of that, prior to these two proposed leases, how much of that is vacant
You mean currently now, or before they were here?
before these two, not taking into account
Well,
these two leases?
We have another company that were importers, and a lot of that building was occupied with our merchandise.
So, so assuming this total of about 150,000 square feet was not leased, how much of the building would be vacant?
Well, our business changed, and rather than having imported merchandise come to the United States, it now goes directly from manufacturers in all parts of the world, mostly China and India, and that goes directly to the ultimate retailer. Because of the change in business, the building then would become mostly vacant.
I'm not
No, in other
sure you're
words,
answering my question.
Prior to the New York City occupying the space, we used it, and then our business changed over a period of time, creating empty space. It was available. It was not occupied. So the space happened to be available when the city had a need.
Is that the only space that's currently available in the building, this 150,000 square feet?
The only space currently available now would be about 200,000 square feet.
Of which this will
This is not-
absorb 150?
No, in addition to the space that's in question today, there's about 200,000 square feet available.
So, okay, thank you. And how long has that space been vacant?
About 5 or 6 years.
And have you attempted to, I assume you have, attempted to lease that space?
Sure, the building is signed currently as available, as many buildings in the area are, and it's been assigned to a broker who has an exclusive agency on the property to secure leases on the building, yes.
And have you gotten significant nibbles?
I wouldn't say significant, but we have inquiries from time to time.
For what kinds of uses, if you could say?
A lot of it's storage. A lot of it is, in some cases, undesirable uses that we might not, want to have in the building. And we have not seen any, or very, very few, if any. I'm trying to think of one that would be in the manufacturing category. We haven't had that really at all. Mostly in the area of storage. There are some inquiries that we have for very small spaces. These floor plates are quite large. They're about 100,000 square feet. In some cases, you have people inquiring for 2,000 or 3,000 square feet, which isn't feasible to really divide this type of space into those small spaces and still have the proper egress that each tenant would need.
And are you, when, this is a fairly large industrial area and you're fairly close to Industry City, is Industry City competitive with yous in terms of leasing?
Competitive in what sense? As far as pricing or as far as
Well, in
size?
terms of potential tenants being interested in your space and Industry City. So are you
Well, I think-
basically leasing in the same market?
They, as you know, I'm sure, they recently have changed their direction significantly, and there are different owners now. So they've taken those buildings in a different direction. I guess you could say making big buildings into small buildings, into small areas. This particular building that is in question here doesn't necessarily as easily lend itself to that without significant, very significant financial investments to convert it to that type of use for very small uses, as I referred to earlier.
Thank you. Questions for Mr. Demast? Ms. Levin?
Yes, Mr. Demast, could you tell us about, I gather you have some city occupancy in the building now, and you're in the process of negotiating, I gather, with the city for the leases that we're talking about today. Could you describe for us the improvements that, or changes you've had to make in the building in order to accommodate the city uses that are on site now, and without getting too deep into your lease negotiations, tell us what additional improvements are to be expected?
Well, the philosophy of the ownership is to continuously improve the building. For example, we last year completed a one-year renovation on the exterior of the property. Complete facade, the facade completely was redone. That was year before last and part of last year. Last year, we converted all of the windows. Actually, this is an old picture. All of the windows on the second floor, which are shown here with screens. If you saw a current picture, they're all brand new thermocline windows. The plan for the building is to upgrade all of the windows over time. It's a very costly project. We did it architecturally to coordinate with the existing structure. So if you looked at it today, if there was a picture here of today and before and after, the picture, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference in the architecture. It was very important to us to maintain the existing feeling of the property as opposed to making them into modern windows like so many of the other buildings have done. In addition to that, we currently signed contracts for 6 different roofs, which are brand new roofs going on this and most of this entire building, plus some other areas. This picture doesn't show the entire structure. It's a square city block, so there's one section that is one level. All of those buildings are getting new roofs. The contracts have been signed. And the plan is to continuously upgrade it. The elevators, there are a significant number of elevators in this property. Unlike some of the others in the area, we have an excessive amount of loading docks for the size of the property as well as the elevators. The elevators have already, there are 8 of them. Several of them are already new. and contracts will be signed shortly on some of the others. It has to be staged over time because of the expense. A question was asked earlier about security. The building has 24/7 security alarm system in addition to NYPD and the MDA having their own alarm systems. It is also NYPD installed a camera system that is hooked up to the main police headquarters, not just the local. So it's under quite a bit of surveillance at all times. I hope I've answered your question.
You have, thank you.
Ms. Efron.
Hi, thank you. I just have a quick question on I think it's the Real Deal website. There was an article about the repositioning of your building as of fall of this past year. And it talked about the broker who I think is the one you're referring to, who has the exclusive, wanting to position the building for film and high-tech companies. Could you just share with us whether that was successful, or it seems that the area is not ready for it, or?
I'm happy you bring that up. Further to the chairman's question, this is indicative of the efforts that we've made on trying to secure. The area has tried to attract high-tech companies, and we've joined that effort to try and do that, and that was one of the efforts that the broker used, one of the marketing plans that he used to try and bring tenants to us. But that was the objective.
Unsuccessfully, it sounds like.
So far.
Any other questions for Mr. Demast? Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.
How are your other buildings doing in the area?
Well, we do light manufacturing in one of our other properties. That particular manufacturing does not require a high population. It is done mostly by automated machines. So that's in one of our other buildings. It doesn't occupy the entire building, and it currently is also available for lease.
Just in case.
Just in case.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks.
We also have available to answer questions Captain Aaron Wright from the Police Department's Property Clerk Division, Jose Andrado from the NYPD, David Velez, who is the NYPD's environmental consultant. Does anyone wish to ask any of those three questions? Hearing none. You are excused.
Just to further elaborate, Commissioner Cirillo, with security, we have our own security response team as well. For the warehouse system.
Are you Captain Wright? Is that-
Yes, I'm Captain Aaron Wright. Good morning. And in addition to that, the local precinct will respond, the 72nd precinct, and our security response team will be alert.
Excellent. And if I'm asking a question that makes more sense not to answer, I understand this. Is it 24 hours?
The operation is not 24 hours.
Right.
However,
The
security is 24 hours.
It is, okay, thank you.
Okay. Is there anyone else who wishes to be heard on this matter? If not, the hearing is closed. Thank you very much.
Borough of Brooklyn, calendar number 26, CD7, C150305, PCK. A public hearing in the matter of an application for the site selection and acquisition of property concerning New York County District Attorney Records Storage Facility.
The first speaker is Dale Lazarson, with whom we are well acquainted, and I think you have pretty much in your prior testimony talked about this proposed lease as well. But are there any other questions, Ms. Lazarson, or anything else you'd like to say about this particular lease?
No, in fact, just our representative from the DA's office may be beneficial to hear from.
Okay. Any questions to Ms. Lazarson? Thank you.
Thank you.
And the next speaker from the District Attorney's Office is Darrell Taylor.
Good morning. My name is Darrell Taylor. I'm the Director of Operations for the Manhattan District Attorney's Office. I'm actually not going to speak, but I am available for any questions that you may have for our office.
I just have one question. Why for the Manhattan District Attorney's Office was or is it so important to have this storage facility in Brooklyn?
There are a number of reasons. There's no storage space. We were unable to find any storage space in Manhattan. Our previous storage space was in Dumbo. And to be honest, we tried to find the closest location to our office. We send staff out to pick up cases every day. There are a lot of rearrests in Manhattan. We have over 500 demanding attorneys who work very hard to keep the bad guys where they should be, and they need their records sometimes. And unfortunately, our files are not digital yet. So every day we send a team out to pick up files so that we can meet the demands of the courts.
Thank you. Ms. Efron.
I was wondering about the plan for the digital file project. How long will that take, or do you know how long it'll take?
I'm not an expert in the field, but I can tell you that our office is taking it seriously. There are a number of challenges that I know of. Courts have their own guidelines. There's certain things that they will accept and they won't accept. Sometimes they need actual evidence. And from my position and what I see and hear, it's going to be a tremendous challenge for our office and the courts because we can't do it alone. It's the courts, it's city, state. So there are a number of things that as I understand it, will impact our ability to go completely digital.
Any other questions for Mr. Taylor? Hearing none. Thank you, Mr. Taylor.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who wishes to be heard on this matter? Hearing none. The hearing is closed. And I believe, Madam Secretary, that's the last
That is
item.
the last.
Let me just say before we adjourn that it's sort of a bittersweet announcement for me that this is Bomi Jung's last
Oh, my goodness.
meeting with us. Bomi is going on to bigger and better things, which she will relay to us and the public soon, I hope. And will continue to be serving, fortunately, the citizens of the city of New York, for which we are very, very grateful. And your stay with us was all too short. We've learned a lot.
Oh, dear.
We've learned a lot about sustainability and resiliency, thanks to your probing questions, and we will miss you here. And we wish you well, and we look forward to working with you in your future capacities.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
It's been a real pleasure and as well as an honor to serve on this commission. And I want to, I guess, kind of for the record, thank the mayor and the council for allowing me to have this opportunity to do it. And I think that this is the way that we have public dialogue around land use here in the city. I think is really. There are lots of ways to do this, and I think the way that we do it, has obviously some challenges and what have you, but I think that we do it pretty well. I think it in terms of transparency and access and ability to sort of respond to issues as they arise, not only from the community, but things like, evolving thought and sustainability and what have you. And so I think that this has been a real learning experience for me and that I've appreciated, but, and I'm leaving, in addition to probably having set the shortest record for the shortest service on the commission, which I regret. But I'm leaving with a real, much better understanding of how this works and the sort of the value that this brings to the public dialogue. And so I really appreciate that. I want to thank Carl for your leadership. I mean, it's, I think that there are, sort of innumerable things that you've brought to this commission that have made it not only a pleasure to serve, but that has really influenced the kinds of issues that we're able to talk about in this forum, and I really thank you as a citizen. And our colleagues at DCP, as well as all of the other sister agencies, DCAS, HPD, DEP, the police department, ACS, all the agencies that participate in this. I'm just, so impressed by the folks who are in service to the city, and I look forward to joining the ranks, as it were.
Well, we look forward to working with you in the future, and we will certainly miss you here.
Thank you.
Good luck. And with that, Madam Secretary, is there any other matters that are before us today?
No, Chairman Weisbrod.
So I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Wish everyone a joyous July 4th holiday weekend.
Thank you.